Hey everyone, and welcome back. We're doing a deep dive today, and we're really excited about this one. We're going to be looking at King's Road 2024-2025 Negotiation Strategy, SAOL. It's a fascinating document full of practical strategies and real-world examples. Basically, we're hoping that this will help you all become better negotiators. One thing that really stood out to me in this document was the focus on win-win solutions.
Yeah.
Which,
Yeah.
sounds fantastic on paper.
Of course.
But how does that really work in practice? To help us unpack all of this, we have an expert in negotiation here with us today.
It really is about a mindset shift. So much of the way that this document approaches the idea of negotiation is that it's not a battle to be won. It's really a collaborative process where you're exchanging ideas, you're talking, and you're ultimately trying to reach an agreement.
So you're saying it's more like
problem solving.
it's not about crushing your opponent.
Right.
It's about finding that sweet spot where everyone feels like they've gained something.
Yeah.
I see that the document outlines kind of 3 key characteristics of effective negotiation.
Okay.
Definition, flexibility, and effective listening.
Yeah. Those are the big ones.
Definition really stood out to me, just being crystal clear about what you want, no ambiguity.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
If you think about it, that's the foundation of a successful negotiation. If you don't know what you want,
Right.
how are you going to get it?
Yeah.
That's where it all starts.
And that leads right into flexibility.
Right.
You have to be willing to adjust your position as new information emerges. It reminds me of that saying, like, the only constant is change.
Exactly. Negotiation is not a static process. You have to be able to move, adapt, be creative.
Yeah.
And you can't do any of that if you're not listening effectively to what the other side is saying.
Mm-hmm.
The document makes a really strong case that in order to find those win-win solutions, you have to truly understand the other party's perspective.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. The document's full of these real-world examples, and one that caught my eye was about negotiating a salary increase.
Sure.
Think about it. Your last salary negotiation. Did you walk in with a clear understanding of your value to the company?
It is.
Were you prepared to articulate that persuasively? This document really...
You have to do your homework.
Yeah.
You really do. The document advises that you research salary benchmarks.
Right.
For your role. Document your contributions. So you're not just going in there and saying, I deserve more money.
Right.
You're coming to the table with concrete evidence of why you're worth it.
Solid preparation is key. Speaking of processes, the document lays out 4 distinct stages of negotiation.
Okay.
Preparation, open dialogue, proposals and negotiation, and reaching an agreement.
Makes sense.
Yeah.
Let's start with preparation. This is where you're gathering information, you're identifying your own strengths and potential concessions, and really trying to anticipate what the other side needs.
So it's almost like being a detective, right? Like you're piecing together clues to solve a case.
Exactly. The more thorough you are in this stage, the stronger your case will be when you get to open dialogue.
And open dialogue really is about establishing a collaborative tone.
Yes.
Right from the outset.
Exactly. Finding common ground early on.
Yeah.
Makes those more challenging discussions a little bit easier down the line.
That makes sense. I can see if you start off adversarial, it's going to be harder to find that compromise later.
Exactly.
Then comes the heart of it, right? Proposals and negotiation.
This is where the back and forth happens.
Yeah.
You're presenting your ideas, you're carefully listening to their counter proposals,
right?
And you're starting to explore those creative compromises.
The document uses the example of like a business deal, right? You have your main proposal, but you also have alternative options.
Right.
Maybe you're flexible on price or payment terms.
Sure.
But firm on deliverables.
Exactly. You have to know what's important to you.
Right.
And be willing to give a little to get a little.
And then we reach the final stage, reaching an agreement.
Right. Yeah.
What struck me here was the emphasis on clarity.
Oh, yeah.
Like a written agreement
Absolutely.
can prevent future misunderstanding.
Sure. A clearly defined agreement that everyone understands.
Yeah.
Make sure everyone feels like they've gained something, which is the whole point of a good negotiation, right?
Exactly. Now, the document dives into some specific negotiation strategies.
Okay.
One that really resonated with me was common interest negotiation, all about finding those win-win solutions by focusing on shared goals.
It requires you to kind of zoom out, look at the big picture, and really understand that collaboration can actually lead to better results for everyone involved.
So it's shifting your mindset from me versus you to us working together.
Exactly.
I'm also intrigued by this win for everyone strategy.
Yeah.
I mean, it almost sounds too good to be true.
Well, it involves really understanding and addressing the other party's needs,
Right.
but also pursuing your own goals at the same time.
Yeah.
It's about actively seeking solutions that benefit both sides.
Can you give me an example of how that might play out in the real world? Say, like a business partnership negotiation.
Sure. One party might offer incentives,
Okay.
like a larger profit share or more marketing support
Right.
to sweeten the deal and make it a win for both sides.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
And then we have this integrative negotiation idea.
Yes.
I love how this strategy focuses on expanding the pie instead of just dividing it.
It's about getting creative.
Right.
And finding ways to maximize value
Yeah.
for everyone involved. A good example of that is a bulk purchase negotiation.
Okay.
The buyer increases their order size and in return gets a larger discount. Both sides win.
I see. There's one strategy in the document that gave me pause. Pressure and strategy negotiation, especially in situations where there's a power imbalance.
It's a strategy that needs to be used very ethically and carefully to avoid damaging relationships. But it can be a powerful tool when applied appropriately.
Can you give me an example of how this strategy could be used ethically?
Imagine a large buyer negotiating with a smaller supplier. The buyer leverages their purchasing power to get better terms.
Okay.
But they do it in a way that's fair. Maybe they guarantee a long-term contract.
Right.
Or offer upfront payment to help the supplier's cash flow.
So it's about finding that balance.
Exactly.
Asserting your needs while also respecting the other party's position.
Absolutely.
This document really stresses that negotiation isn't just about strategies, it's also about developing these key personal skills.
100%. It's those skills that allow you to communicate effectively, build rapport, and really navigate the complexities of any negotiation.
The first one that they list is effective communication.
Sure.
Frankly, this is something I'm always working on.
Yeah, it's easy.
It's so easy to over-explain or get lost in the details.
The document really emphasizes clear, concise communication. Cut the jargon, avoid complexity, and focus on making your point in a way that everyone can understand.
Sometimes less is more. Right?
Absolutely.
And then we have active listening.
Yeah.
Which is another skill I'm constantly honing. It's so easy to get caught up in your own thoughts and arguments.
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah.
Active listening is crucial.
Yeah.
You have to absorb what the other person is saying, ask clarifying questions, demonstrate that you're genuinely interested in understanding their perspective.
So it's about building understanding and empathy.
Exactly.
Another skill that I personally struggle with is emotional management. Keeping cool under pressure is not my strong suit.
Well, the document highlights how important it is to stay calm, even in these tense situations. Deep breaths, maintain a calm demeanor, avoid escalating the conflict. These simple techniques can really help you stay focused.
Good advice. And finally, we have persuasion.
Right.
Which seems self-explanatory.
Sure.
But I'm curious to hear the document's take on this.
Well, they emphasize that persuasion is not about manipulation. It's about building a compelling argument.
Right.
Using evidence and data and past successes to support your position.
It's not just about saying what you want. It's about showing why it makes sense.
Exactly.
And the document really emphasizes that negotiation skills aren't just for the boardroom.
Not at all. These are valuable skills that you can use in all areas of your life.
That's what's so fascinating about this document. It really makes you realize that negotiation
it's everywhere.
Is woven into the fabric of our lives.
Yeah.
We negotiate with our partners, our friends, our families every day.
Absolutely.
We negotiate at work, at the store, even when we're trying to get our kids to eat their vegetables. It's everywhere.
The document really highlights the power of applying negotiation skills in personal relationships.
Right.
It's about compromise.
Yeah.
It's about navigating differences of opinion.
Yeah.
And it's about building those stronger connections.
Instead of digging in your heels and demanding your way, you're using negotiation to find a solution that works for everyone.
Exactly.
And then there's this idea of crisis negotiation.
Sure.
Which requires a very specific skill set to de-escalate these tense situations.
Absolutely.
Right. It's a whole other level.
Imagine a dispute between two teams at work.
Right. Okay.
Let's say there's a major disagreement about how to approach a project. Tensions are high.
Right.
And it's starting to impact productivity.
A skilled negotiator can come in, help calm things down.
Right. Make sure each team feels heard and understood.
Yeah.
And then shift the focus to identifying the root cause of the conflict.
So they're not just putting a Band-Aid on the problem.
Exactly.
They're going deeper to figure out what sparked the conflict in the first place.
That's right.
And finally, they would facilitate a collaborative process to develop solutions that address those underlying issues.
Exactly.
It's not just about finding a quick fix. It's about preventing similar conflicts from arising in the future.
Absolutely.
We've covered a lot of ground in this first part of our deep dive, from the foundational principles of negotiation to specific strategies and personal skills. Before we move on, we want to give you, our listeners, a moment to reflect.
Yeah.
Think about a recent interaction where you wish you'd handled things differently.
Sure.
How could a more skillful approach to negotiation have changed the outcome?
Good question. Welcome back. We just spent some time exploring those building blocks of effective negotiation. The mindset, the characteristics, those 4 stages. Now let's shift gears a little bit and see how these principles actually play out in real-life scenarios.
That's what I'm excited about. How do these concepts go from theory to practice?
Well, the document starts with the world of business negotiations. That's where a lot of people first encounter the need for strong negotiation skills, right? Deals, contracts, partnerships. It's a fast-paced world.
It's not just about getting what you want in a business deal, is it? Mastering these skills can really be a driver for success for your entire company.
Absolutely. And the document really emphasizes that it's not about squeezing every last penny out of a deal. It's about creating these mutually beneficial agreements, ones that lead to long-term growth and sustainability for everyone.
So it's about building those solid relationships, not just closing transactions.
Exactly. And, the document offers some really insightful tips specifically for business negotiations.
Yeah.
For example, it stresses the importance of meticulous preparation. Know your goals, your non-negotiables, and try to understand, what the other party needs before you even step into the room.
That makes sense. If you walk in unprepared, you're more likely to make concessions that you'll regret later, right?
Right. And remember, clear communication is paramount in any negotiation. Avoid using, industry jargon or overly complex language that might confuse the other party.
So it's about making sure everyone is on the same page, understanding those terms and conditions clearly.
Exactly. The document also highlights the importance of flexibility in business negotiations.
Yeah, it's that dance between firmness and flexibility, knowing when to hold your ground and when to make those concessions to get a deal that meets those objectives. Now let's move beyond the boardroom and consider how negotiation skills can actually enrich our personal lives. This section really opened my eyes to the power of these techniques in building stronger relationships. Because at first I was like, I can't picture using negotiation with my family and friends. It just seems too formal,
Well, it's not about turning every conversation into a contract negotiation, right? It's about applying those core skills, communication, empathy, compromise, to resolve those conflicts constructively and find solutions that really work for everyone involved.
So it's taking those core principles of negotiation and adapting them to the dynamics of personal relationships.
Think about it this way. You're using those same tools, active listening, understanding needs, finding creative solutions to navigate those differences that inevitably come up in any close relationship.
The document gives an example of how this might work when planning a vacation with a partner.
Okay.
Instead of each person insisting on their own destinations and activities, you use negotiation to find options that everyone can enjoy.
Exactly. That way, everyone feels heard and valued and gets excited about the trip.
Yeah.
You've taken a potential source of conflict.
Yeah, right.
And turned it into an opportunity to actually strengthen your bond.
Yeah. Such a practical example of how negotiation can be a positive force in our personal lives.
Right.
Now, the document takes us into a more intense scenario, crisis negotiation.
Yeah. This is where those skills, staying calm, actively listening, finding that common ground become absolutely critical. You have to be able to think clearly and act decisively under pressure.
I can see how crisis negotiation requires a very unique set of skills to de-escalate the situation,
right,
manage emotions, and find those solutions quickly.
The document emphasizes the importance of, first of all, calming things down. You can't make any progress if everyone is really emotional, So once you've established a calmer environment, then you can focus on really listening to understand the other party's perspective.
So it's about seeing past the anger or
Yeah.
frustration to get to the heart of the issue.
You're looking for that common ground, that shared goal. That can become the foundation for a resolution. The document uses the example of a dispute between two teams at work.
Okay, let's say there's a major disagreement about how to approach a project. Tensions are high, and it's starting to really impact productivity.
Well, a skilled negotiator would first try to de-escalate the situation, right? Make sure each team feels heard and understood. And then they would shift the focus to identifying the root cause of the conflict.
So they're not just putting a Band-Aid on the problem.
No, they're going deeper to figure out what caused the conflict in the first place.
And finally, they would facilitate a collaborative process to develop those solutions that address the underlying issues.
So it's not just about finding a quick fix.
Right.
It's about preventing similar conflicts from happening in the future.
This deep dive has really highlighted how negotiation is so much more than a business skill, isn't it?
It really is. It's a fundamental communication skill that you can apply in every aspect of your life.
It's about understanding human behavior,
Yep.
finding those creative solutions, and working together to achieve shared goals.
And, it's a continuous learning process.
Right.
The more you practice these skills,
Yeah.
the more effective you'll become.
Before we move on to that final section of the document,
Yeah.
take a moment to reflect. Think about a challenging situation you're currently facing at work, in a relationship, or even in your community.
Sure.
How could a more skillful approach to negotiation help you navigate that challenge and achieve a more favorable outcome?
Something to think about.
Welcome back to our deep dive into negotiation. We've covered so much ground, from the foundations and strategies to those key personal skills and even how these principles play out in different parts of our lives. But now, in this last part, I want to sort of zoom out and look at the bigger picture.
Yeah. What I really appreciate about this document is that it goes beyond just offering those tactical tips.
Mm-hmm.
It really highlights that negotiation is an art form, a skill that you refine and hone over time.
Yeah. It's not about memorizing a bunch of tricks or techniques.
Right.
It's about developing this deeper understanding of human behavior,
Absolutely.
communication,
Yeah.
even the psychology of persuasion.
It's about being able to read people, understand their motivations, and build that rapport and trust,
So you're saying it's about looking beyond just those surface arguments?
Yes.
And identifying those underlying needs?
Right.
And interests that are driving their behavior?
Exactly. And then using that understanding to craft solutions that address those needs in a way that creates a win for everyone.
This document has honestly shifted my perspective on negotiation. I used to see it as this confrontational thing,
Right.
where the goal was to just win.
I think a lot of people approach it
At
that way.
all costs,
Yeah.
But now I see it more as a collaborative process where the goal is to find solutions that benefit everyone involved.
It's about building bridges, not burning them.
Right.
Finding common ground, not creating division.
And ultimately, it's about creating a more positive and productive world where we can all work together to solve those problems.
Absolutely. The more people embrace this approach to negotiation,
Yeah.
the more positive and productive
Right.
all our interactions will become.
It's not just about getting what we want.
Right.
It's about creating a better world
Yeah.
through communication and understanding.
Well said. As we wrap up this deep dive into negotiation, I want to leave you with one final thought.
Think about those different areas of your life, your work, your relationships, your community involvement.
Yeah.
Where could a more skillful approach to negotiation make a real difference? Maybe there's a long-standing conflict you want to resolve, or a goal you've been struggling to achieve. We encourage you to put these strategies into practice. You might be surprised by the positive changes that unfold. Thanks for joining us on this deep dive into the fascinating world of negotiation. Until next time.